And I think you guys definitely need to be visiting with your producers about the oil analysis and oil sampling. What we were just kind of briefly talking, a couple of us in the back there. This handout, actually, Molly, you didn't have a copy, do you? I think I'm going to take a little different track here. This is going to kind of be an overall cheat sheet. There we go. And what I think I'm going to do, I've arranged with Joel, I'm going to email him a bunch of stuff to put on a secure website for you guys. You're free to download it, copy it, take it to producers, do whatever you need to do. But I think I'm maybe going to expand a little bit of certain sections in what we're going through. We were just talking, we could spend 2 weeks on this stuff, easy. And I'd love to have you here for 2 weeks, by the way, if you want to stick around, but it's okay. I think we're touching the top of a lot of these topics, but to get in depth, I think I need to give you guys more. Could I trouble you to close that door for me, please? Those gosh darn rowdy students, I tell you. Totally out of control.
Get them off campus.
Yeah, really. If it wasn't for those students, my life would be easy. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm on microphone, I better not say that. I love my students. I do, actually. So I think I'm going to take certain sections, such as the oil, such as the fuel, and develop some more documents that just pertain to that particular topic, maybe to give you just a little more information for your producers. One we're definitely going to do is on preventive maintenance. I'm absolutely huge on that. We should be taking care of the problem before it becomes a problem. It shouldn't be a problem if we take care of it early enough. So oil sampling and visual inspections, whatever. So I'll get something together. But please be aware it might take me all summer to get it done, but we will get it done. Or it won't be right away. Okay?
Well, and if you want to just send me some, the smart stuff about, your the points on there, we can pretty it up and
yeah, okay.
that kind of thing. If that makes your life easier.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yep, we can work something together. You bet. Okay, so I think we beat this one down. So let's just keep on going again. One huge resource right here, johndeere.com. And I do invite you to get out, as I said in the beginning, the last slide you'll see up here, you don't have a printout because it's not complete yet. I'm going to have all kinds of web resources for you. That's a huge resource. Please make sure you use it. I'm sure you already do use it. Not sure about your producers. Some of my customers would, some they would have nothing to do with. They knew the information was there, but they just didn't want to deal with it. All right, so, but I'll give you those resources, okay? So lubrication system. Just real quick, this is the damage. This is actually out of a turbocharger. So this, if we were to turn this sideways, actually our shaft goes through this. On one end of the shaft I have my compressor wheel, and the other end I have my turbine. So this is the bearing. If I don't take care of my oil, this will fail. If that fails, I lose my very expensive turbocharger. Okay? So, our lubrication system is tied into a lot of other things. We just looked at one example of how it's tied into our fuel system. Right? So now looking at a turbocharger. If I don't get that turbocharger spooled up, I don't compress the air, I don't get the air in the engine to burn the fuel, I waste fuel, I have low power, so the list just goes on and on, just because I didn't take care of my gosh darn oil, all right? We talked about oil filters. Oh, there's a couple of other things. We talked about the Micron rating. There is actually 2 different Micron ratings. If you were to go downtown to a parts house and you ask them what the nominal Micron rating of an 85060 oil filter, and that's actually one that fits on a Chevrolet pickup, they would look at it like you and like, what the heck are you talking about? So, well, okay, well, if you don't know the nominal, what's the absolute? They'd probably show you the door, all right? So, a micron rating, we're understanding, so there's 2 ways of looking at it. Basically, a micron is the size of the hole in the filter media, right? Or the other way we can look at it is actually the size of the dirt particle that's getting trapped. Okay. A nominal, and this actually goes with lubrication, with fuel filters, with air filters, whatever. A nominal is an average number. So if I have a nominal rating of 10 microns, that means that that filter can capture some 10 micron size filters, dirt particles rather. It might capture some 5 micron particles. It might let through some 15 microns. So it's an average number. All right. So in a fuel system, for example, that would be your primary filter, because we're just catching the big stuff there. All right. And then hopefully we have a water fuel separator. Now, absolute micron rating is what you need for your on your fuel system, your secondary or your final filter. Secondary, final filter, it's the same filter, just different terminology. So if the manufacturer of that engine wants you to have, or your producer to have, a 2 micron filter, nothing larger than 2 micron size debris will go through that filter. End of conversation. And most of them up to about 99.9% efficiency, which is pretty gosh darn good. Okay? So that's the difference between absolute and nominal ratings. All right? A little more forgiving with your primary filter, with your water fuel separator. There's absolutely no forgiveness whatsoever with that final filter, especially when you start looking at a high pressure common rail fuel system. You cannot have water go through that system. You cannot have debris go through that system. Number one, the injectors are incredibly expensive. You know, that little Sisu is $2,000 for one dang injector. And number two, if we're looking at efficiency, if I have debris or water going through at 45,000 PSI, if I want to really screw the tip up of that injector, that's a real good way of doing it. So now my atomization, and also I should add my spray pattern. When that fuel comes out of the bottom of that injector, it just doesn't poof, it sprays out. All right, so what we're looking for is a mist. Should have shown you that down there. I had a couple of injectors that could have showed that to you. So when we crack that injector, when that fires, we're looking for a mist that spreads throughout the air and the turbulence inside the combustion chamber, so it burns evenly throughout that combustion chamber. So if I elongate or make one of those holes in the tip of that injector, and you know they're pretty gosh darn small, if it gets big, I'm going to have one spray coming out that's not going to atomize correctly. Now my efficiency, my fuel usage, everything just goes to heck in a handbasket. All right, that kind of makes sense. Okay, so it's absolutely critical on those nominal ratings. We talked about cut-open filters. We're talking about the lube system here. I really don't care what the system is. And I really don't care if it's gasoline or diesel. Filters need to get cut open. Okay, you really probably don't have to cut open your air filters, but any type of a lube filter, your transmissions filters, some have filters on your cooling system, a supplemental cooling additive. Some you have your fuel filters, okay, hydraulic filters. Any of those, if they can be cut open, you cut them open. You put your gloves on, do it correctly, and investigate what's going on inside those filters. If they're clean, they're clean. If they're dirty or they're warped or wavy pleats, then we need to figure out why. All right.
So when you say cut them, you mean like if this is the filter, you just cut it right down?
No, if this is my, let me see. Is this empty? No. Okay, I'll use this. Okay, this is the spin-on part. So I spin this onto the engine. It's sitting on my engine like this. So I spin it off, and I have a hole on top where the oil is. We cut right around here. Okay, this cap comes off. And then, so I'm left with basically a metal shell, so I can now pull out that filter media, okay? So then what I can do, if I want to take it a step further, and I'll show you, I'll bring some filters out tomorrow and show you guys this. What I can do is, if I have this circular thing here with a whole bunch of pleats, all right, so I can spread the pleats apart and see if there's any metal in the bottom of the crevices. I can look and see if they're nice and straight. If they're wavy, I know I've had water through there. If I pull those pleats apart and I see, you probably always see, especially on lubrication filters, a little bit of fines of metal. That's just normal wear. Now if you see a whole bunch of metal or you see some chunks, we got a problem. So then you would need to go a step further and take out a magnet. Well, is it ferrous or non-ferrous? Because it's going to come from different parts of the engine. If it sticks to the magnet, they're going to come from certain parts. If it doesn't stick, well, maybe it's brass or copper. It's coming from my bearings, for example. Okay. What I can also do is and all your producers carry their little jackknives around. You flick out your jackknife. So I have this media here. I have a metal cap here and I have a metal cap here. I can cut all the way around the media here, all the way around here and make one slice down the center. And I can take that media and I can actually spread it out on the table just like an accordion. And that makes my inspection a whole lot easier, right? I'm not holding this up and peering down here. We can actually flatten that out and you'll get a very, very good visual representation of what's happening inside that engine, okay? So any filter, I don't care what it is, what the fuel is, gasoline, diesel, they need to be cut open, okay? Big proponent of that. Tomorrow we're going to go to Fire Mechanics Building. I'll show you a cutting tool which we purchased through Caterpillar. It was like $125, $150. It's kind of expensive, but boy, it works pretty nice. Works really nice, okay? Okay, let's take, this actually should be in two sections. So the color of the oil. So we're looking at lubrication systems. Okay, if I have milky colored oil, which I shouldn't have milky colored oil, what could possibly be the issue? Water. Okay, that's exactly what it would be, all right? If I have, let me see.
You want to have lots of leaks, so when you're checking and adding it up.
Exactly. That's why we run Detroit engines. It's not a Detroit if it doesn't leak, right? Okay, let's go back to my pet peeve of this idling thing, which we are going to come back to, by the way. All right. So if I have excess idling, then I have a potential that I'm going to dilute my oil. Is that fuel going to change the color of that oil? Fuel is oil, right? This is a light oil is all it is. So it's not going to change the color at all. So how the heck do you know if you have fuel in your oil?
Changes the viscosity, but how do you
But
know?
didn't we say that if you're supposed to have five quarts and that's 5.5?
Yeah. Yeah, that's one way. They're both correct. Both correct.
But
The smell of it.
What is the color but a lot of times you'll see like if you're burning engine oil, it will turn a little bit of a darker color, right?
No, I'm talking about fuel getting into the engine oil.
Right.
No, it won't. Typically, it won't change color.
Okay.
No. So we can smell it. All right. We can, if we're making oil. I mean, if our engine makes oil, you will have got a gold mine because we're making oil, or else we've got a serious problem. Typically, we've got a serious problem. Okay. You can actually, and I'm not sure if you really want to do this, but I have tasted it. All right. That's another good way. It's probably not the best way of doing it.
How do you know what gas tastes like? Just out of curiosity.
You can tell, trust me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, you can do the base test of just regular oil. I'm being serious here.
Remember the shop mechanic guy?
I seem to recall.
Yeah.
Looking for antifreeze, aren't they?
I seem to recall.
Both
you talked
antifreeze
about
and fuel.
carcinogens and safety.
Yeah.
Not getting on your hands.
Wasn't on my hands. I had gloves on.
When you put it in your mouth.
Just had a glass.
Have more sensitive.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about this right here. Let's talk about our little dipstick test. This is, it's a real fast way of determining a lot of things. Okay? So what we're going to do with our dipstick test is we're going to have, well, two ways you can do it. Either you're going to have a nice hot manifold, exhaust manifold, or you're going to have your producer go in and fire up the wife's stove, the cooktop. And we're going to put a metal plate on top of that that top, okay? Probably don't use a good skillet. You might get in trouble for that, all right? So we can take some of our engine oil, and we don't know. It might be good. It might have a little bit of coolant in it, but we really can't see that because it hasn't turned any color. But we're losing a bit of coolant. We're not sure where it's going. We're making oil, so we possibly could have some fuel in there. Well, I really don't know. So what we can do is we're going to take our dipstick and we're going to dip our dipper stick into some oil we know is good. All right? And then just going to flick it onto either the hot plate or your hot exhaust manifold. All right? You can actually also do this with a Bic lighter. Just get your Bic lighter and just light that on fire. And it's going to burn, right? and there's going to be a certain color, and it's going to take a certain time to burn that oil. All right, we good so far? All right, so we know what the base is of a good oil. Now we're going to take a sample of the oil that just came out of the engine. We're going to do the same thing. Either going to flick it onto the exhaust manifold, we flick it onto the hot plate, or we get our Bic lighter out. A couple of things are going to happen. Now we know what straight oil, what the color of the flame should be, what the color of the smoke should be, how fast it should burn. If that sample from your engine burns a whole lot quicker and has darker or lighter smoke, chances are you've got diesel fuel in there. Because diesel fuel is a lighter oil, it's going to burn a whole lot quicker than 15W40, for example. All right? If you flick it onto your hot plate or your exhaust manifold, you use your Bic flick, and it starts lighting and then it spits at you, it's got water in there. Okay? So the good one if it's a manifold, if you flick it on there, the oil kind of sticks and then burns. The water molecules will actually bing, 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 bing. They're kind of cool. They dance across the top of the manifold. All right? So it's just a real cheap, easy way of doing those tests. Okay? Now that's what I call a dipstick test. All right? And your producers can do this anytime they want. Okay? All right, so anything else on our loop system we need to talk about? You good to go?